You ever notice how different the world looks at 3 in the morning? When you're the only car on the highway and the darkness outside your windows feels thick enough to touch. Tonight, I'm going to tell you what happens when that darkness decides to reach back. These are true horror stories. I thought I knew what cold felt like until that night on Route 47. My breath had started fogging up the windshield about 20 minutes before the engine gave out. One moment I was driving through fat snowflakes that looked almost peaceful in my headlights. And the next, my Honda was coughing like a dying animal. The dashboard lights flickered once, twice, then the whole thing just died. I coasted to the shoulder and sat there in the sudden silence, watching snow pile up on my hood. I tried the ignition 3 times. Nothing. Not even a click. The cold crept in fast. I could feel it seeping through the door seals, through the floorboards, wrapping around my ankles like invisible hands. I grabbed my phone. No signal. Of course there wasn't. I was somewhere between Millbrook and absolutely nowhere, surrounded by dark trees that looked like they were leaning in to watch me freeze. I'm not the panicking type. I teach 2nd grade. I've dealt with head lice outbreaks and parent-teacher conferences. I can handle a broken-down car. But sitting there in the dark, watching my breath get thicker and thicker in the air, I felt something I hadn't felt since I was a kid, afraid of my closet. That primal certainty that I was not alone. I don't know how long I sat there before I saw the headlights. They appeared in my rearview mirror like 2 pale eyes opening in the darkness. At first, I thought they might pass me by. People don't stop for strangers on mountain roads at 2 in the morning, not anymore. But the vehicle slowed, pulled up behind me, and I heard the rumble of a diesel engine idling. It was a pickup truck, dark-colored, maybe black or deep blue. Hard to tell in the snow. The driver's door opened, and a man stepped out. He was tall, wearing a heavy canvas jacket and work boots. Normal. He looked completely normal. He knocked on my window and I rolled it down a crack. The cold that rushed in made my eyes water. "You all right in there?" His voice was rough, but not unkind. He had to be in his 50s, with graying hair and a weathered face. The kind of face you see on farmers and construction workers. Trustworthy. "Car died," I said, trying to keep my teeth from chattering. "No cell service up here." He nodded like he'd expected that. "Yeah, there's a dead zone for about 15 miles. Nearest town is Crossfield, about 30 minutes down the mountain. I can give you a lift if you want. Get you somewhere warm." I hesitated. Every horror movie, every true crime podcast, every news story flashed through my mind. Don't get in cars with strangers. Don't trust friendly faces. But my fingers were already going numb, and the snow was coming down heavier. I could barely see the road anymore. "That would be amazing," I heard myself say. "Thank you so much." I grabbed my purse and phone, locked my car out of habit, and climbed into his truck. The heat hit me like a wall. The cab smelled like coffee and diesel and something else. Something faintly sweet that I couldn't place. The passenger seat was worn but clean. A thermos sat in the cup holder. Everything seemed fine. "Name's Marcus," he said as he pulled back onto the road. His headlights barely cut through the swirling snow. "Jessica," I replied, rubbing my hands together. "I really appreciate this. I thought I was going to freeze out there. It gets dangerous quick up here in winter." He drove slowly, carefully. Lost a few people over the years. Fall asleep in their cars waiting for help. Don't wake up. I shuddered, and not from the cold. That's terrifying. Mountains don't forgive mistakes. We drove in silence for a few minutes. I watched the trees slide past, dark shapes in darker shadows. The heater was almost too warm now. I felt drowsy, that dangerous kind of sleepy that comes after extreme cold. I forced my eyes to stay open. That's when I noticed he was looking at me. Not just glancing, staring. I caught him in the rearview mirror, his eyes fixed on me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. But when I turned to look at him directly, he was watching the road, hands at 10 and 2, expression neutral. I looked away, counted to 10, looked back at the mirror. He was staring again. And this time, I realized what was wrong with his expression. He wasn't blinking. His face was completely still, like a mask. But his eyes in the reflection were moving, tracking every breath I took, every shift of my body. So, do you live in Crossfield? I asked, trying to sound casual. Sometimes. The answer made no sense, but I laughed anyway, a nervous sound that died quickly in the cab. I glanced at the mirror again. He was still staring. And now I noticed something else. The angle was wrong. I could see his eyes in the rearview mirror, watching me intently. But when I looked at him sitting right next to me, his head was facing forward, his eyes on the road. The heater was blasting, but I suddenly felt very, very cold. We passed a sign, Crossfield, 22 miles. We'd been driving for 15 minutes. We should have been closer by now, shouldn't we? I checked the mirror one more time. His eyes met mine in the reflection, and I swear to God, he smiled. But the man sitting in the driver's seat, the one I could see with my own eyes, his expression never changed at all. I tried to focus on the road ahead, looking for landmarks, anything familiar. But the snow was falling so thick now that the world outside had become nothing but white static. The headlights seemed to be swallowed by it, barely penetrating more than a few feet ahead. Then I saw another sign emerge from the darkness. Crossfield, 35 miles. My stomach dropped. We'd been driving for another 10 minutes. The distance should be getting smaller, not larger. I think we're going the wrong way, I said, keeping my voice as steady as I could. That sign said 35 miles. It was 22 a few minutes ago. Marcus didn't respond. His hand stayed fixed on the wheel, his eyes on the road. In the rearview mirror, those other eyes, the ones that couldn't possibly be his, continued watching me with that same unwavering intensity. "Marcus?" I said louder. "Did you hear me? We're going the wrong direction." Nothing. He drove on as if I hadn't spoken at all. The only sound was the heater blasting warm air and the wipers scraping across the windshield in a rhythmic squeak that was starting to sound almost like words. I reached for the door handle, some instinct screaming at me to get out, to jump if I had to. But my hand froze halfway there. We were going at least 50 miles per hour on a mountain road in a snowstorm. I'd be dead before I hit the ground. The radio crackled to life. I hadn't seen him touch it. His hands were still on the wheel, exactly where they'd been for the past half hour. But suddenly the speakers were hissing with static, that white noise that sounds almost like breathing if you listen long enough. I reached forward to turn it off. My hand passed right through the dial. I jerked back, slamming against the passenger door. I tried again, slower this time, and watched my fingers disappear into the dashboard like it was made of smoke. I could feel the plastic, solid and real, but I couldn't interact with it. Couldn't turn it, couldn't push it, couldn't change anything. The static grew louder. I could hear something underneath it now. Voices maybe, or crying, or both. "Please," I whispered. "Please let me out. I want to get out." Marcus's lips didn't move, but I heard a voice anyway. It came from everywhere and nowhere, filling the cab like the heat. "Almost there," it said. I looked at the side mirror, desperate for any sign of another car, another person, anything. The mirrors showed the road behind us, empty and white. And then I saw the driver's seat in the reflection. It was empty. I could see the worn leather, see straight through to the driver's side window. No one was sitting there. But when I turned my head to look directly at Marcus, he was solid and real, his hands on the wheel, his body taking up space. I looked back at the mirror. Empty seat. Looked at him. Solid. Mirror. Empty. Him. Solid. My breathing was coming too fast now. I pressed my hands against the window, and that's when I noticed my reflection. I could see myself perfectly, terrified and pale. Behind me, the back seat was visible. The headrests, the dark upholstery, but no driver. The front of the truck was simply empty in every reflection. I checked the rearview mirror, the side mirror, even the shine on the thermos. Every reflective surface told the same impossible truth. I was alone in this truck. There was no one driving, but someone was driving. The steering wheel turned on its own, smooth and precise, guiding us around curves I couldn't see. The gas pedal pressed down without a foot touching it. And sitting next to me was something wearing the shape of a man named Marcus. Something that didn't exist in reflections because it had never existed at all. "What are you?" I heard myself ask. The static from the radio resolved into something clearer. Not words exactly, but I understood it anyway. I felt it in my bones, in the base of my skull where primitive fear lives. It showed me what it was, not through images, but through knowledge that suddenly flooded my mind. It was old, so much older than the road we were driving on, older than the mountains. It lived in the spaces between places, in the gaps where people got lost. It wore shapes that made people feel safe, friendly faces and kind voices. And it collected. The back seat wasn't empty. I'd been wrong about that. I turned slowly, so slowly, and saw them piled there like discarded coats. People, dozens of them, translucent and gray, their mouths open in silent screams, their hands reaching toward me. A businessman in a rumpled suit, a teenage girl in a prom dress, an elderly couple still holding hands, all the people who'd accepted a ride from the friendly man in the truck. They weren't dead. That would have been mercy. They were trapped, caught between like reflections that couldn't quite disappear. And they were trying to warn me, their mouths forming words I couldn't hear. The truck began to slow. I looked forward and saw nothing but darkness ahead. No road, no snow, just an absolute black that seemed to pull at my eyes. "Welcome home," said the voice that was not Marcus's voice. And we drove into the dark. I woke up to birdsong and the smell of morning dew. My neck ached from the angle my head had fallen, slumped against something hard. I blinked in the bright sunlight, disoriented and nauseous. It took me several long seconds to understand what I was seeing. My steering wheel, my dashboard, my car. I was sitting in my Honda in my own driveway. The engine was off. My house keys were clutched in my right hand, the metal still warm from my grip. Through the windshield, I could see my front door, my little garden with the ceramic gnome my mother had given me, the porch light that I'd left on before I went to visit my sister. My sister. I'd been driving back from her place. That was 2 days ago. I checked my phone. Sunday morning, 6:43. I'd left my sister's house on Friday night. I'd lost almost 2 full days. The driver's seat was adjusted perfectly for me. The mirrors were set exactly how I liked them. My purse sat in the passenger seat, nothing disturbed. My coffee thermos was in the cup holder, still half full, still cold. My car that had broken down on Route 47, miles away in the mountains, was now parked with precision in my driveway. Not a scratch on it, not a flake of snow. I sat there until my neighbor, Mrs. Chen, walked past walking her corgi. She waved at me, smiling like nothing was wrong, like it was perfectly normal for someone to sit in their car for 20 minutes staring at nothing. I went inside, took a shower. The hot water felt wrong on my skin. Too hot or not hot enough. I couldn't tell which. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror and tried to remember the drive home. Tried to remember anything after the darkness swallowed the truck. Nothing. Just a blank space where 2 days should have been. I called in sick to work on Monday. Spent the day checking every news site I could find for reports of missing persons, of abandoned cars on mountain roads, of strange accidents. Nothing. I even called the police in Millbrook, asked if anyone had reported a broken-down Honda on Route 47. The dispatcher said there'd been no reports. Asked if I needed to file one myself. I hung up. For 2 weeks, I almost convinced myself it had been a dream. A weird, vivid nightmare brought on by stress and the long drive. I went back to work. Taught my second graders their multiplication tables, graded papers, meal prepped on Sundays. But I stopped driving at night. I told myself it was practical, safer. Gas prices were better during the day anyway. But the truth was, I was afraid of what I might see in my rearview mirror. On the 16th night, I had to work late. Parent-teacher conferences ran until 9. The parking lot was nearly empty when I walked to my car, keys already in hand, pepper spray in the other. The streetlights cast everything in that sickly orange glow that makes the world look jaundiced. I saw the truck 3 blocks from the school. It was behind me, keeping exactly 4 car lengths back. Dark colored. Could have been black or deep blue. The headlights were at just the wrong angle, shining into my rearview mirror, making it hard to see the driver. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I told myself it was coincidence. Trucks were common. This was a different one. Had to be. I turned left. The truck turned left. I turned right at the next intersection. The truck turned right. 4 car lengths, always 4 car lengths, never closer, never farther. I drove past my street, took a longer route home, turned down roads I'd never used before. The truck followed every turn, patient and precise. When I finally pulled into my driveway, I sat with the engine running, watching my mirror. The truck stopped at the end of my street, just sitting there, waiting. I ran inside and locked every door, every window, drew all the curtains. And when I finally worked up the courage to peek through the blinds, the truck was gone. It happened every night after that. Sometimes it would pick me up at work, sometimes at the grocery store. Once, it was already behind me when I pulled out of my own driveway in the morning. Always the same distance, always following. I tried everything. Different routes, different times. I drove to the police station once, and the truck calmly waited in the parking lot across the street until I came back out. The officer I spoke to went outside to look, but by then, the truck had disappeared around a corner. Probably just someone who lives in your neighborhood, he said, bored. Same commute as you. But I knew better. I knew what was in that truck, what was driving it. Last night, I couldn't take it anymore. The truck had been following me home from the library, 4 car lengths back. Same as always, but instead of going inside when I got home, I stayed in my car, watched it sitting there at the end of my street, and then I put my car in reverse and drove toward it. The truck didn't move, just waited as I got closer and closer. I stopped right next to it, driver's side to driver's side, separated by just a few feet of empty air. I looked over at the driver. The window was down. The cab was dark, and sitting in the driver's seat was something that wasn't wearing Marcus's face anymore. Wasn't wearing any face at all. It was smooth where a face should be, blank and pale like unfinished clay. But it had eyes. God, it had so many eyes, scattered across that smooth surface like stars, all of them looking at me with the same patient hunger I'd seen in the rearview mirror that night. And in the back seat, I could see them clearly now without the snow and darkness. The collected ones, the people who'd gotten in the truck. They weren't translucent anymore. They looked solid, real, and they were all staring at me with the same smooth, eyeless faces. One of them pressed her hand against the window. She was wearing my jacket, the one I'd been wearing that night, the one I was somehow still wearing now. I looked down at my hands on the steering wheel. They looked wrong. The skin was too smooth, too pale. When was the last time I'd seen my reflection? Really seen it, not just glanced in a mirror? I lifted my hand to touch my face and felt nothing where my nose should be, nothing where my mouth had been. Just smooth, cold skin stretched over bone. The truck pulled away slowly, and I followed it without meaning to. 4 car lengths back. Always 4 car lengths back, because some things don't let you go when you escape them. They just let you think you did. They let you wake up in your driveway and go back to your life and teach your students and buy your groceries. They let you drive yourself home every night. And when you finally look in the mirror, really look, you realize you've been in the back seat all along. The GPS said it would save me 43 minutes. I'd been driving the same route between Toledo and Columbus for 8 years, hawking industrial cleaning supplies to restaurants and hotels. I knew every truck stop, every speed trap, every place where the highway narrowed to one lane for construction that never seemed to finish. So when the traffic report came through about a jackknifed semi blocking all westbound lanes, I didn't hesitate to take the detour my GPS offered. County Road 19. Never heard of it. But the little blue line on my phone showed it connecting back to the highway in about 30 miles, and the ETA still had me making my 4 o'clock meeting with plenty of time to spare. The turnoff was easy to miss. Just a narrow gap between overgrown trees with a faded green sign that might have said something once, but was now just rust and bullet holes. The road itself was paved, barely, with cracks running through the asphalt like veins. In 2.3 miles, your destination will be on the right, my GPS announced in that calm, feminine voice that always sounded slightly disappointed in me. I settled in, already mentally rehearsing my pitch. The key was confidence. Make them believe they couldn't live without the commercial-grade degreaser, even if they'd been doing just fine for 20 years without it. The road curved gently through farmland that looked like it hadn't been farmed in decades. Fence posts stood at drunken angles. A farmhouse in the distance was missing half its roof. Trees crowded in on both sides, their branches forming a tunnel that made it feel later than 2 in the afternoon. I passed a crooked tree that leaned out over the road at an impossible angle, its trunk bent like a broken neck. Probably lightning damage. I'd seen plenty of those over the years. Then came an old barn, red paint faded to the color of dried blood, one wall completely collapsed inward. A rusted mailbox stood at attention near the road, its flag stuck permanently up, waiting for mail that would never come. Pretty country, in a depressing sort of way. In 2.3 miles, your destination will be on the right, my GPS said again. I glanced at the screen. That was weird. It had said 2.3 miles 5 minutes ago. Maybe I was going slower than I thought. I checked my speedometer. 55, right where I'd been holding it. The road curved again, and I passed the crooked tree. Same angle, same broken neck lean. A coincidence. Lots of trees get hit by lightning out here. But then came the barn. Same collapsed wall, same rust-colored paint. And the mailbox. Flag still up. My hands tightened on the wheel. I slowed down, looking for differences. Maybe it was a different barn, just similar. But no, there was the same dent in the side, the same pattern of missing boards. Even the weeds growing around the foundation were identical. In 2.3 miles, your destination will be on the right. Yeah, you said that already, I muttered. I checked my odometer. I'd driven 12 miles since turning onto County Road 19. Should be seeing the highway connection soon. Should be seeing something different. The crooked tree appeared again. My stomach clenched. I hit the brakes, stopping right there in the middle of the road. I looked behind me, looked ahead. Same stretch of cracked asphalt disappearing into the same tunnel of trees. This was impossible. Roads didn't loop like this. I would have seen a curve, would have felt myself turning around. But the road had been straight, mostly straight, just gentle bends that shouldn't have brought me back to the exact same point. I pulled out my phone. The GPS showed me as a blue dot on County Road 19, moving forward. Except I was stopped. And the blue line that was supposed to connect to the highway just kept extending ahead of me, endless. No signal. Of course, there was no signal out here. Turn around, I said out loud. Just turn around and go back. I executed a 3-point turn, my tires crunching on the gravel shoulder. Started driving back the way I'd come. The trees slid past, the road unwound. I watched my odometer tick up. 1 mile, 2 miles, 3. The crooked tree appeared ahead of me, then the barn, then the mailbox. Flag up, waiting. No, I breathed. No. I was going the opposite direction. I'd turned completely around. But here I was again, at the same impossible point on the same impossible road. In 2.3 miles, your destination will be on the right. I turned around again and again. Each time I ended up at the crooked tree, the barn, the mailbox. Each time my GPS calmly informed me that my destination was 2.3 miles ahead. The sun hadn't moved. I checked the time on my phone. 2:17. Same as when I'd turned onto this road. My meeting was at 4. I still had time, except time wasn't passing. That's when I saw the other car. It came up behind me slowly, an old sedan with one headlight out. It passed me doing maybe 30 miles an hour, and I got a glimpse of the driver. A woman, middle-aged, hands gripping the wheel so tight her knuckles showed white even from a distance. Her face was blank, not calm, blank. Like someone had erased her expression and forgotten to draw a new one. I sped up. I tried to follow her, to flag her down. We could figure this out together. Find where the road was looping, find the way out. But she maintained the same speed, always just ahead of me. And then she went around a curve and disappeared. When I came around the same curve, she was gone. Just empty road stretching ahead, to the crooked tree, to the barn, to the mailbox. In 2.3 miles, your destination will be on the right. I looked at my gas gauge. Still 3/4 full. Same as when I'd started. My odometer had stopped counting. And in my rearview mirror, I saw another car appear, then another, then 3 more. All of them driving slowly, all of them with drivers who stared straight ahead with those terrible blank faces. We were all driving the same loop, all trying to reach a destination that was always 2.3 miles away. I glanced at the passenger seat just to ground myself. to see something familiar. Someone was sitting there. I jerked the wheel in shock, and the car swerved toward the ditch. I overcorrected, fishtailed, then slammed on the brakes. The car screeched to a stop sideways across both lanes. My head whipped around to look at the passenger seat. Empty. Nothing there but my briefcase and a crumpled fast food bag from 3 days ago. I was breathing so hard I could hear it echoing in the car. My hands were shaking on the wheel. I'd seen someone. I was certain I'd seen someone. A figure sitting there, watching me. But the seat was empty. I forced myself to breathe slower, deeper. Stress. I was stressed and seeing things. That was all. I'd been driving the same loop for God knows how long, and my mind was playing tricks. I straightened the car and started driving again. What else could I do? The sun was setting now. I could see it sinking toward the horizon, fat and orange, painting the trees in shades of rust and gold. At least time was moving again. That was something. That was good. Except the sun had been in front of me. Now it was behind me, and I hadn't turned around. The other cars were still there. I counted 7 of them now, scattered along the road at irregular intervals. Sometimes one would pass me. Sometimes I'd pass one. We were all driving at slightly different speeds, but we were all still here, all still trapped in the same loop. I pulled up next to a minivan, at what must have been the dozenth time I'd passed the crooked tree. A man was driving, maybe 40 years old, wearing a polo shirt and glasses. He looked like he sold insurance or worked in IT. Normal. Completely normal. I honked my horn, waved my arms. He turned to look at me. His face was pale, so pale it looked like milk. His eyes were sunken deep into his skull, ringed with dark circles that looked almost bruised. And his mouth was moving, forming words over and over. The same words. But no sound came through his window or mine. Help me. That's what his lips were saying. Help me, help me, help me. I accelerated away from him, my heart hammering. In my rearview mirror, I watched him continue down the road, his mouth still moving, still forming those same 2 words. The sky was darker now. Not quite night, but that gray twilight that makes everything look unreal. My headlights came on automatically, cutting through the gloom. That's when I noticed my gas gauge, still 3/4 full, exactly where it had been hours ago. I'd been driving for hours, and I hadn't burned a single drop of fuel. I looked at the odometer. The numbers hadn't changed, still showed exactly what they'd shown when I turned onto County Road 19. A station wagon passed me going the other direction. The driver was a woman with long, dark hair. She was crying, I could see that much. Tears streaming down her hollow cheeks, her mouth open in what should have been sobs. But she made no sound. None of them made any sound. How long had they been here? Days? Weeks? That man in the minivan looked like he hadn't eaten in a month. The woman in the station wagon looked like a ghost. Was I going to look like that? Was I already starting to? I flipped down the sun visor, looked at myself in the mirror. Same face I'd always had. A little tired maybe, a little stressed. But normal. Still normal. I flipped the visor back up and saw the figure in my back seat. This time I didn't swerve. I couldn't. My hands locked on the wheel, my whole body frozen, because the figure was leaning forward, its face inches from my ear. It looked like me. Not exactly. Not quite. But close enough that it could have been my brother, if I'd had a brother. Same shape of face, same color hair, same build. But its skin had that same milk-pale quality as the other drivers, and its eyes were hollow and dark. "Hello, Daniel," it said. And its voice was my voice, but flatter somehow. Like a recording played on bad speakers. I couldn't speak, couldn't move, could only stare at it in the rearview mirror. "You're going to like it here," it continued. "Everyone likes it here eventually. The road takes care of us, gives us purpose. We drive and drive and drive and never have to worry about anything else. No meetings, no quotas, no disappointing anyone, just the road." "Get out," I managed to whisper. "Get out of my car." "This isn't your car anymore, Daniel. It belongs to the road now. You belong to the road now. You just don't know it yet." I twisted around to look directly at it, to prove it wasn't real, couldn't be real. The back seat was empty, but in the mirror, it was still there, still leaning forward, still smiling with my face. "The others tried to fight it too," it said. "But look at them now. They understand. They've accepted. You will too, everyone does." "I'll wreck the car," I said. "I'll drive into a tree. I'll get out." "You can't wreck what's already broken, Daniel. You can't leave what you never really entered. This road exists in the space between places, the crack in the map, and you drove right into it because you wanted to save 43 minutes. It laughed, and the sound was horrible because it was my laugh, my voice, my inflection. Was it worth it? Those 43 minutes you'll never have?" The crooked tree appeared ahead, then the barn, then the mailbox. "In 2.3 miles, your destination will be on the right," my GPS announced. And in the mirror, the thing wearing my face smiled wider. "You're almost there," it said. "You're almost home." "There is a way out," the thing said. I'd stopped trying to escape, stopped turning around, stopped speeding up or slowing down. I just drove, passing the crooked tree and the barn and the mailbox over and over, while the thing in my back seat spoke in my voice, telling me about the road, about the others who'd been here before me, about how peaceful it would be once I stopped fighting. But now it was offering me something different. "What?" My voice came out hoarse. I couldn't remember the last time I'd had water. "The road doesn't want to keep you, Daniel. It just wants something. A trade. Leave something behind and you can go." Looked at it in the mirror. Those hollow eyes that were almost mine stared back. "Leave what behind?" "Something important. Something that matters. The road feeds on the things people can't bear to lose. That's how it grows. That's how it sustains itself." "I don't understand." "You will. Just agree. Say yes. Say you'll pay the price, whatever it is." I should have asked more questions, should have demanded to know exactly what I'd be giving up. But I'd been driving this loop for hours, maybe days, and the other drivers with their pale faces and their silent screaming were still out there, still circling, and I couldn't become one of them. I couldn't. "Yes," I whispered. "Yes, I'll pay it, whatever it costs." The thing smiled. "Drive to the mailbox, stop there, and close your eyes." I did what it said. I had no other choice. When I reached the rusted mailbox with its flag permanently raised, I pulled over and stopped. My hands were shaking as I gripped the wheel. "Close your eyes, Daniel." I closed them. I felt something shift. Not the car moving, but reality itself bending around me, folding in ways that made my stomach lurch. There was a sound like tearing paper, but massive, thunderous. The smell of rust and decay filled the car, so strong I gagged. Then silence. "Open them." I opened my eyes. I was on the highway, the real highway, the one I'd been trying to reach. Cars rushed past me in both directions. A truck horn blared as it swerved around my stopped car on the shoulder. Everything was noise and movement and color and real, so devastatingly real. The back seat was empty. I checked my phone. 4:37 in the afternoon. I'd missed my meeting, but I didn't care. I was out. I was free. I pulled back onto the highway, merged into traffic, and drove. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I kept checking the rearview mirror, expecting to see that pale face, expecting to loop back to the crooked tree. But there was only normal road behind me, normal cars, normal life. I called my wife when I got to a rest stop. "Hey, sorry I'm running late," I said when she picked up. "Got stuck in some weird traffic situation. I'll be home in about 2 hours." "Okay," she said. There was something in her voice I couldn't place. Distance, maybe. "Drive safe." "I will. Love you." "You too." She hung up before I could say anything else. The rest of the drive was uneventful. Normal. I stopped for gas, even though my tank was still 3/4 full. Paid with my credit card, got a receipt. Everything worked exactly as it should. When I pulled into my driveway, the porch light was on. My house looked exactly as I'd left it that morning. Red door, white shutters. The garden gnome my wife insisted on keeping even though I thought it was tacky. My wife. Her name was Sarah. We'd been married for 12 years. I walked inside. Sarah was in the kitchen, cleaning up after dinner. She looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "You're home late?" she said. "Yeah, I told you. Weird traffic thing." "Hey, is..." I trailed off. I'd been about to ask if someone was home, but I couldn't remember who. Someone important. Someone I should be asking about. "Is what?" Sarah asked. "Nothing. Sorry, long day." I walked through the house, and that's when I started noticing the gaps. There was a hook by the door with my coat and Sarah's coat. But there was a third hook, empty, with a little mark on the wall where something had been hanging for a long time. In the living room, the couch had 2 worn spots where Sarah and I always sat. But there was a third worn spot, smaller, on the opposite end. Pictures on the wall showed me and Sarah at various places. Our wedding, a beach vacation, standing in front of the Grand Canyon. But the composition was wrong. There was too much empty space in the frames, like someone had been cropped out. "Sarah," I said slowly, "do we have any kids?" She looked at me like I'd lost my mind. What kind of question is that? Just answer me. Do we have kids? "No, Daniel, we don't have kids. We never had kids. Are you feeling okay?" But she was lying. I could see it in her eyes. She was lying, or she believed what she was saying. But it was wrong either way. I went upstairs to the spare bedroom. It was full of storage boxes and old furniture. But there was a bed in there, a twin bed with a bare mattress. And on the wall were holes where posters had been taped up. Someone had lived in this room. Someone small. I pulled out my phone, scrolled through my photos. Me and Sarah. Sarah and me. Vacation pictures, pictures of food, pictures of sunsets. But in some of them, I was holding my arm out at a weird angle, like it had been around someone's shoulders. Someone who wasn't there anymore. The road had taken its price. I'd had a daughter. I knew I'd had a daughter. I could almost feel the shape of that knowledge, the weight of it. But I couldn't remember her name, couldn't picture her face, couldn't recall a single specific memory of her. She was gone, erased, not dead, because death leaves evidence, leaves grief. She'd simply never existed, except she had, and I was the only one who knew something was missing. I went back downstairs. Sarah was watching TV, a glass of wine in her hand. She looked content, happy even. "Sarah, we had a daughter," I said. She didn't look away from the screen. "We never had a daughter, Daniel. We talked about it, but we decided against it. Remember? But I could see it in her face. That same distance, that same emptiness. The road had taken the memory from her too, from everyone. My daughter was driving County Road 19 now, pale and hollow-eyed, circling past the crooked tree and the barn and the mailbox, over and over, forever. And I couldn't even remember her name. I walked to the window and looked out at the street. At the end of the block, I could see a truck parked under a street light, dark-colored. Could have been black or deep blue. The headlights flicked on. Because some prices aren't paid once, some prices keep taking. And I had the terrible feeling that the road wasn't finished with me yet. It had taken my daughter. Tomorrow, it might take my wife. And the day after that, it would take me back. My shift at Mercy General ended at 2 in the morning, same as it had for the past 6 years. I was tired. The kind of tired that settles into your bones after 12 hours of checking vitals and changing IVs and holding the hands of people who were scared of the dark. But it was a good tired. Honest work tired. I had a podcast queued up for the 30-minute drive home, something about unsolved mysteries that I only half paid attention to while I drove. The highway was almost empty at this hour. Just me and the occasional semi-hauling goods through the night. I liked it this way. Peaceful. The dotted lines on the road had a hypnotic quality, and I let my mind drift, thinking about my bed, about the 8 hours of sleep I had coming to me before I had to do it all over again. The podcast cut out mid-sentence. Static filled my speakers, harsh and sudden. I reached for the volume, but before I could turn it down, a voice emerged from the noise. It wasn't human, not quite. It had that robotic, text-to-speech quality, each word pronounced with mechanical precision and no inflection. This is an emergency broadcast. A dangerous individual was last seen traveling northbound on Interstate 77 near mile marker 84. The suspect is driving a 2009 silver Honda Civic, license plate number Charlie Delta 7392. If you see this vehicle, do not approach. Contact authorities immediately. The individual is considered armed and extremely dangerous. This is an emergency broadcast. My hands tightened on the wheel. I was on Interstate 77, northbound. And according to the last sign I'd passed, I was approaching mile marker 85. I checked my mirrors almost reflexively. There was a car behind me. Single car, about 5 car lengths back, silver, 4-door sedan, could have been a Civic. My heart started beating faster. Just a coincidence. Lots of people drove silver Civics. It was one of the most common cars on the road. But my nursing brain, the part that had learned to notice details and trust instincts, was screaming at me to pay attention. I slowed down slightly, letting my speed drop from 70 to 65. If the car was just a normal commuter, they'd pass me. Move on. Prove my paranoia wrong. The silver Civic slowed down too. Maintained the exact same distance. The broadcast repeated. Same robotic voice, same words. Mile marker 84. Silver Honda Civic. Charlie Delta 7392. I couldn't see the license plate from here, not at night. Not with their headlights in my mirror. But the make and model were right. The color was right. And they were staying behind me with the persistence of a shadow. I changed lanes. The Civic changed lanes. My mouth went dry. I reached for my phone, mounted on my dashboard. I'd call 911, report it, let the professionals handle it. That was the smart thing to do. But my phone screen was black. I tapped it. Nothing. Dead. except it had been at 68% battery when I got in the car 15 minutes ago. The broadcast started again. Same words. But this time, I noticed something I'd missed before. In the background of the static, underneath the robotic voice, there was another sound. Breathing, ragged and wet, like someone with fluid in their lungs. I'd heard that sound before, in the ICU, from patients who didn't have long. I pressed the gas pedal down. My little Toyota jumped forward, accelerating to 80, then 85. The engine whined in protest. I wasn't a fast driver, never had been. But I needed to put distance between me and that silver Civic. It accelerated too, matched my speed exactly. Still 5 car lengths back, the next exit was 3 miles ahead. I could see the green sign reflecting in my headlights. Route 43, there was a 24-hour gas station there. I'd stopped at it before. Fluorescent lights, cameras, safety, 2 miles. The broadcast changed. This is an emergency broadcast. A dangerous individual was last seen traveling northbound on Interstate 77 near mile marker 87. The suspect is driving a 2012 white Toyota Camry, license plate number. My license plate number. My exact license plate number. If you see this vehicle, do not approach. Contact authorities immediately. The individual is considered armed and extremely dangerous. No. No, no, no. That was wrong. I was the one being followed. I was the one in danger, not the dangerous one. I looked in my rearview mirror at the Civic. It was still there, steady and patient. And then its high beams flashed 3 times. Pause. 3 times. Pause. 3 times. I knew what that meant. I'd taken a defensive driving course years ago. 3 flashes was a warning. It meant something was wrong. It meant danger. But danger where? Behind them? In front of them? In my car? 1 mile to the exit. I could see the glow of the gas station in the distance, a beacon of fluorescent normalcy. The breathing in the broadcast was getting louder, closer, like whatever was making that sound was leaning toward a microphone. And then I heard it, that same wet, labored breathing, but not from my speakers, from my back seat. I looked in the rearview mirror, and for just a second, just a fraction of a second, I saw something in the shadows behind me, something that shouldn't have been there. The exit was here. I jerked the wheel, took the ramp too fast, tires squealing. The silver Civic followed, still flashing its high beams, 3 times, 3 times, 3 times. Warning me, trying to help me. But help me from what? I pulled into the gas station, flooded with light, and slammed the car into park. My hands were shaking as I reached for the door handle. I needed to get out, needed to get away from whatever was in my back seat, needed to get to people, to witnesses, to safety. The door wouldn't open. I pulled the handle again. Nothing. The lock wasn't engaged. The mechanism just wouldn't work. The silver Civic pulled up beside me. The driver's window rolled down. It was a woman, maybe 50, with short gray hair and glasses. She looked terrified. She was shouting something, pointing at my car, at my back seat. I couldn't hear her through my window, but I could read her lips. "Check your trunk," she was screaming. "Check your trunk." I tried the door again, pulled harder. It still wouldn't open, like the mechanism had fused shut. Through my window, the woman in the Civic was still shouting, still pointing at my trunk, her face twisted with terror. I twisted around to look at my back seat. Empty. Just my work bag and a reusable grocery tote. Nothing breathing, nothing wrong. But the trunk. What was in my trunk? I kept a spare tire, jumper cables, an emergency kit. Standard things, normal things. But I couldn't remember the last time I'd actually opened it. Weeks? Months? My phone suddenly blazed to life in its mount, the screen bright and glaring. 68% battery. Exactly where it had been before it died. I grabbed it with shaking hands and punched 911. 2 rings. 3. 911, what's your emergency? There's someone following me, I said, words tumbling out. The emergency broadcast said there was a dangerous person in a silver Civic and they've been following me, and now they're saying it's me, that I'm the dangerous one. But I'm not. I'm a nurse. I'm just trying to get home. Ma'am, slow down. You said someone's following you. Yes, a silver Honda Civic. They've been behind me for miles, and the emergency broadcast, ma'am, what emergency broadcast? On the radio. It said there was a dangerous individual on Interstate 77. There was a pause. I could hear keyboard clicking. Ma'am, there hasn't been an emergency broadcast tonight. We have no active alerts for Interstate 77. But I heard it, multiple times. It described the car behind me, and then it described my car. Where are you right now? Gas station off exit 93, Route 43. Stay there. I'm sending a unit to your location. Stay in your vehicle with the doors locked. Can you do that for me? The doors won't open. I tried. They won't open. Ma'am, you just said someone was following you. Are you trying to leave your vehicle? No, I mean, yes, but the doors won't unlock. They're stuck. Another pause. Longer this time. Ma'am, have you been drinking tonight? What? No, I'm a nurse. I just finished a shift. I'm stone sober. Okay, stay calm. Officers are 7 minutes out. Stay on the line with me. The woman in the Civic was out of her car now, approaching mine. She moved slowly, carefully, like she was afraid of spooking a wild animal. When she got close to my window, she stopped and held up her phone. She typed something in large letters on a notes app. Don't open the trunk. I stared at the message. My hands felt numb. The dispatcher was still talking in my ear. Ma'am, are you still there? There's a woman here. She's trying to tell me something. Is she threatening you? No, she's warning me about my trunk. Your trunk? She keeps saying not to open my trunk. The woman typed something else, held up her phone. I've been following you since the hospital. Mile marker 73. I saw someone get into your trunk while you were walking to your car. Ice flooded my veins. The parking garage at Mercy General. I always parked on level 3, poorly lit, half the fluorescents burned out. I'd complained to security about it a dozen times. Had I heard something when I was unlocking my car? A sound behind me? I'd been so tired, so focused on just getting home. Ma'am, the woman outside your car, is she the one who was following you? The dispatcher asked. She says someone got into my trunk at the hospital. Don't open your trunk. Do you understand? Stay in the vehicle. Officers are 5 minutes away. The woman was typing again. Her hands were shaking so badly, it took her a long time. There was no emergency broadcast. I made it up. I recorded it on my phone and played it through your radio. I hacked your Bluetooth. I'm a programmer. I didn't know how else to warn you without making you pull over somewhere isolated. I felt dizzy. None of this made sense. She'd hacked my radio, created a fake emergency broadcast. Why didn't you just call the police? I mouthed through the window. She typed, showed me. I did. They said they'd send someone to the hospital to check the parking garage. That was 40 minutes ago. You were already driving. I couldn't let you get home. Couldn't let you open your trunk in an empty driveway. My house, my quiet street, my detached garage where I always parked. If I'd made it home, I would have been alone when I opened the trunk. No witnesses, no cameras, no help. Ma'am, officers are 3 minutes out. Stay with me. I became aware of a sound, faint, muffled, coming from behind me, scraping, like something moving against carpet, against metal. My trunk wasn't empty. Something was in there. Someone was in there. And they'd been there the whole drive home, listening to me breathe, waiting for me to stop, waiting for me to be alone. The woman outside held up her phone again. One word, run. But I couldn't. The doors were locked from the inside. Not by me, by whoever was in the trunk. They'd done something to my car, tampered with it somehow while I was finishing my shift. The scraping was getting louder. Ma'am, are you hearing something? The dispatcher asked. She could hear it through the phone. Someone's in my trunk, I whispered. Someone's in my trunk and they're moving. Officers are 90 seconds away. Stay calm. Stay on the line. The woman outside was backing away now, fumbling with her phone, probably calling 911 herself. Her face was pale in the fluorescent lights. My rearview mirror suddenly adjusted on its own, tilted down, and I saw what I should have seen earlier. My back seat, the seats, they fold down. There's a pass-through to the trunk, and someone had folded them down. Just a few inches. Just enough for a gap. Just enough to reach through. There was a hand coming through that gap. Pale and dirty, fingernails black with grime. It was feeling along the back of my seat, searching for something, searching for me. The emergency broadcast had been fake. The woman had made it up to warn me, to keep me from going home, to keep me in public where I'd be safe. But she'd made one mistake. She'd broadcast my license plate number, my exact car description. And now every person at this gas station, the attendant inside, the truck driver filling up at pump 4, they all thought I was the dangerous one. The hand found the back of my seat. Fingers closed around the headrest. Started pulling itself through. I screamed, couldn't help it. The sound ripped out of my throat as I watched that pale hand pull. Watched an arm emerge through the gap, shoulder twisting to fit through the narrow space. The woman outside was shouting, running toward the gas station. The dispatcher was yelling in my ear, asking what was happening, telling me help was coming. And then the locks clicked. All of them at once. The doors unlocked. I didn't think. I threw my door open and ran. My legs were weak from 12 hours of standing, from pure terror. But I ran anyway. Across the parking lot, through the automatic doors, past the startled attendant. Bathroom, I screamed at him. Where's the bathroom? He pointed, and I ran down a narrow hallway lined with refrigerated drinks. The bathroom door was heavy, industrial. I slammed it shut behind me and twisted the lock. Then I collapsed against it, sliding down to the floor, my whole body shaking. I could hear sirens now. Close, getting closer. My phone was still in my hand, still connected to 911. Ma'am, are you safe? I'm in the bathroom, I gasped. I locked the door. I'm safe. Officers are on scene. Stay where you are. They're going to clear your vehicle. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Pressed my hand against my chest, trying to slow my racing heart. I was safe. The police were here. Whatever was in my trunk, whoever had been reaching for me, they couldn't get to me now. Minutes passed. 5, 10. I listened to footsteps outside, voices, the crackle of police radios. Then a knock on the bathroom door. Ma'am, this is Officer Chen with the state police. You can come out now. I stood on shaky legs, and opened the door. Two officers stood in the hallway, a man and a woman, both in uniform. They looked professional, calm, but there was something in their eyes. Something. Careful. "Are you injured?" Officer Chen asked. She was the woman, short and compact, with her hair pulled back tight. No, I'm fine. Did you get them? Whoever was in my trunk?" The officers exchanged a glance. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us," the male officer said. His name tag read Martinez. "Okay. Is the woman okay? The one who was following me? She was trying to help me." Another glance between them. "We need you to come with us," Martinez repeated. Something was wrong. I could feel it in the way they were standing, positioned between me and the exit, in the way neither of them would quite meet my eyes. They led me outside. The gas station parking lot was lit up like a stage. 3 police cruisers, lights flashing, an ambulance, and my car surrounded by officers. The trunk was open. I could see people in latex gloves carefully removing things, placing them in evidence bags. Large bags, the kind you use for clothes, for tools, for bodies. "What is that?" I asked. "What's in my trunk?" Officer Chen touched my elbow, gentle but firm. "Ma'am, I need you to understand you're not under arrest right now, but we do need to ask you some questions." "Questions about what?" "I told you someone got into my trunk at the hospital. The woman in the Civic saw it happen. She tried to warn me." "What woman, ma'am?" I looked around. The silver Civic was gone. Just my car and the police vehicles remained. "She was here. She followed me. She made the emergency broadcast to warn me." "There was no emergency broadcast tonight," Martinez said quietly. "We checked with dispatch. There hasn't been an emergency broadcast in this county in over 3 years. But I heard it, multiple times. It described her car, then my car. Ma'am, whose blood is in your trunk?" The question hit me like cold water. "What?" "There's blood in your trunk. Quite a lot of it. And other items, clothing, personal effects, a wallet with ID that matches a missing person report filed 6 days ago." No, that's impossible. I don't know anything about that. Someone put those things there. The person who got into my trunk. "We watched the security footage from the hospital parking garage," Chen said. "Going back 3 hours before your shift ended. No one approached your vehicle. You were the only person who went near it. Then they did it before that, before I got to work. The blood is fresh, very fresh. It hasn't even started to coagulate yet." I felt dizzy. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. "Ma'am, do you remember stopping on your way home tonight? Before you got on the highway?" "No. I left the hospital and got straight on 77. Martinez pulled out his phone, showed me a photo. A convenience store parking lot. Security camera footage showing my car parked in the lot. The timestamp was 1 hour ago. I could see myself in the driver's seat. But I didn't remember stopping there. I'd never seen that convenience store before. This store is 3 blocks from where a woman named Sarah Chen was last seen. She didn't show up for work tonight. Her family filed a missing person report at 11 p.m. Sarah Chen, Officer Chen, same last name. "She's my sister," Chen said, and her voice cracked just slightly. "And her wallet is in your trunk, along with her jacket, and her blood. I didn't do this. I don't know how those things got there. I don't remember stopping at any convenience store." "What do you remember?" Martinez asked. I opened my mouth to answer, closed it. My shift had ended at 2 a.m. I'd walked to my car, started driving. But the more I tried to think about it, the more the details slipped away. Had there been gaps? Moments I couldn't account for? "I need you to look at something else," Chen said. She pulled out another photo. Different security camera footage. A woman walking through a parking lot, wearing scrubs, wearing my face. But I didn't move like that. Didn't hold myself like that. The woman in the footage moved with purpose, with certainty. She walked directly to a young woman standing by a car, approached her, spoke to her, and the young woman got into my car willingly. "The emergency broadcast," I whispered. It wasn't warning me about someone following me. "No," Chen said softly. "It was warning people about me." I looked back at the footage, at the woman wearing my face who moved like a stranger, at my hands in the present moment, and noticed for the first time the dirt under my fingernails. Noticed the small cut on my palm that I didn't remember getting. Noticed how my scrubs had a stain on the sleeve that looked rust-colored in the fluorescent lights. "The woman in the Civic," Martinez said. "You said she was trying to warn you. But you were alone on that highway. We tracked your route using traffic cameras. There was no silver Civic. There was never anyone following you. Then who was flashing the lights? Who was trying to warn me?" Officer Chen's eyes filled with tears. "Maybe you were, ma'am. Maybe some part of you was trying to stop the rest of you." They found Sarah Chen's body 3 hours later in a drainage ditch off Interstate 77. Mile marker 84, exactly where the emergency broadcast had said. The broadcast I'd made, the one I'd played through my own car speakers, warning myself about myself. Because somewhere in my fractured mind, in the part of me that still worked night shifts and held patients' hands, I'd known what the other part was doing. And I'd been screaming into the static, trying desperately to warn anyone who would listen. But the only person listening was me. And I hadn't understood till it was too late. Ava, the fog came out of nowhere. One moment I was driving through clear November night, my daughter humming some pop song in the back seat while my son played his handheld game with the sound muted. The next moment, the world disappeared into white. It wasn't gradual. It was like driving into a wall of cotton. My headlights bounced back at me, useless, turning the fog into a solid glowing mass that somehow made it harder to see. I hit the brakes, felt the car slow from 55 to 40, then 30. "Dad, I can't see anything," my daughter Emma said from behind me. She was 10, old enough to understand when something wasn't right. "It's okay, sweetheart. Just some fog. We'll take it slow." My son Tyler, 7 years old, didn't look up from his game. Nothing bothered Tyler. I turned on my hazards and crept forward at maybe 15 miles per hour. We were on Route 12, the rural highway that cut through farmland between my mother's house and ours. 40 minutes in good conditions. No idea how long it would take in this. The fog pressed against the windows like something alive. I'd driven through fog before, plenty of times, but this was different. Thicker. It had a texture to it, a weight, and it was absolutely silent. No wind, no rain, just that suffocating white stillness. I couldn't see the lines on the road anymore. Couldn't see more than 5 feet ahead. I was navigating by instinct, trying to stay in what I hoped was my lane. That's when I saw them. Children. 3 of them, standing in the middle of the road. They were maybe 30 feet ahead, visible only because my headlights caught them at just the right angle. Small figures in pale clothes, standing perfectly still facing my car. I screamed, couldn't help it, jerked the wheel hard to the left. The car fishtailed. I overcorrected, wheels skidding on the damp asphalt. Everything went sideways. I felt the sickening lurch as we left the road, the impact as we hit the ditch, the violent jolt as the passenger side crashed into something solid. Then silence. Emma? Tyler? My voice came out strangled. I'm okay, Emma said. She sounded scared but unhurt. Me too, Tyler added, finally looking up from his game. I twisted around to check them. Both were still buckled in, eyes wide but no visible injuries. The car had stayed upright. The airbags hadn't deployed. We'd gotten lucky. Then I remembered the children. I'd swerved to avoid them. Had I hit them? Please, God, don't let me have hit them. I fumbled with my seatbelt, hands shaking. My door was jammed against the ditch, but the passenger door opened. I climbed across the center console and stumbled out into the fog. Stay in the car, I called back to my kids. Don't move. The fog swallowed my words. I could barely see my own car, even standing right next to it. I walked toward where the road should be, where I'd seen the children standing. Hello? I called out. Is anyone hurt? I'm sorry, I didn't see you until the last second. Nothing. No response. No crying. No sound at all except my own breathing. I walked further, arms outstretched like a blind man. The road should be right here. I should be able to feel the asphalt under my feet. But there was only dirt and grass. Had I gotten turned around? I looked back. Couldn't see my car. Couldn't see anything. Panic squeezed my chest. I had 2 kids in that car. I couldn't get lost in the fog, couldn't leave them alone. I turned back, retracing my steps, counting them. 15, 20, 30. My car materialized out of the white like a ghost ship. Thank God. I climbed back in through the passenger side. Emma and Tyler were exactly where I'd left them. Did you find them? Emma asked. Find who? The kids, the ones you almost hit. No, I don't think I hit them. I think they moved out of the way. Dad, Tyler said quietly. He was looking out his window, his game forgotten in his lap. What, buddy? They're still here. I looked where he was pointing. At first, I didn't see anything. Just fog pressing against the glass. Then I realized the fog wasn't pressing. Something in the fog was pressing. Faces. Pale faces with their foreheads and noses flattened against the window, peering in. Children's faces. Emma screamed. I reached back and grabbed her hand, squeezed it. It's okay. We're safe in the car. They're just kids. But they weren't just kids. I knew that even as I said it. Their faces were wrong, eyes too dark, like holes punched in paper, mouths that smiled too wide, showing too many teeth. And they weren't breathing. The glass wasn't fogging where their breath should be. More faces appeared at Tyler's window, then at the windshield, then at my window, inches from my face. 6 of them, 8, 10. All pressing their faces against the glass, all with those hollow eyes and stretched smiles. They raised their hands, started tapping on the windows. Tap, 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 rhythmic, synchronized, like they were knocking to be let in. Dad, what do they want? Emma's voice was small, terrified. I don't know, baby. Tyler unbuckled his seatbelt. Tyler, no, I said. Stay buckled. We need to stay in the car. But he wasn't listening. He was staring at the fog children, and his face had gone slack, empty. They want to play, he said. His voice sounded distant, dreamy. Tyler, buckle yourself back in, now. Emma unbuckled too. Emma, what are you doing? They want us to come play, she said in that same dreamy voice. They've been waiting so long. They're lonely. The tapping grew louder, more insistent. The car started to rock slightly, and I realized there were children all around us now. Dozens of them, surrounding the car, pushing against it. Lock the doors, I said. reaching for my door lock. "Emma, Tyler, lock your doors right now." But the locks wouldn't engage. I pressed the button over and over. Nothing. And my kids were reaching for their door handles. "No!" I lunged back, tried to grab Emma's arm, but she was too fast. Her door swung open. The Fogg children leaned in, their mouths stretching wider, those hollow eyes gleaming with something that might have been hunger. "Come play with us," they whispered in unison. "Come play forever." I threw myself between Emma and the open door, slamming my hand against it. It closed with a solid thunk, and I immediately hit the lock button. This time it worked. The lock engaged with a click that sounded like salvation. Emma blinked, swayed slightly, like she was waking up from a dream. "Dad, what happened?" "Stay away from the doors," I said, breathing hard. "Both of you, don't touch the doors. Don't touch the windows. Don't touch anything." Tyler was still staring out his window at the Fogg children. His hand was on the door handle, fingers curled around it. "Tyler, let go of the handle." He didn't respond, didn't even look at me. The children outside his window were tapping again, their pale fingers leaving no marks on the glass. Tap, tap, tap. One of them smiled at Tyler, and its mouth kept stretching, wider and wider, until it looked like its face might split in half. "Tyler." I reached over the seat and grabbed his wrist, pulled his hand away from the door handle. He turned to look at me, and for a second, his eyes were different. Darker, like something was looking out through him instead of him looking out. Then he blinked, and he was Tyler again, my 7-year-old son who still slept with a nightlight and loved dinosaurs. "Dad, I don't feel good," he whispered. "I know, buddy. Just stay in your seat. Stay away from the windows." But the Fogg children were everywhere now, pressed against every window, every surface. Some of them were climbing onto the hood, their small bodies weighing down the front of the car. I could see them through the windshield, crouching there, their heads tilted at angles that made my stomach turn. They weren't human. I knew that now. Whatever they were, whatever they'd been, they'd stopped being human a long time ago. The tapping grew louder, more frantic. And then I realized they weren't just tapping anymore. They were pulling. I could see the door handles moving, jiggling, like someone was trying to open them from outside. "Dad, they're trying to get in," Emma said. She'd pulled her knees up to her chest, making herself as small as possible. "The doors are locked. They can't get in." But even as I said it, I heard something that made my blood freeze. A clicking sound, metal on metal. The lock on Tyler's door was moving, rising slowly like an invisible hand was pulling it up. I lunged over the seat and slammed it back down, held it there with my thumb, pressing so hard my nail turned white. Emma's lock started rising. "Emma, hold your lock down." She reached over and pressed it, but her hands were shaking. The lock fought against her, trying to rise, and I could see tears streaming down her face. "I can't hold it, Dad. It's too strong." The children outside were laughing now. I could hear it through the glass, high and tinkling, like wind chimes made of bones. My own door lock started to rise. I couldn't hold Tyler's lock and my own at the same time. I made a choice, kept pressure on Tyler's, and watched helplessly as my lock clicked up into the unlocked position. My door handle turned. The door started to open, and I saw pale fingers curling around the edge, pulling it wider. The fog poured in, cold and damp, carrying with it the smell of earth and rot and something else. Something sweet and wrong, like fruit that had been left to decay. I grabbed the door and yanked it shut, hitting the lock again. But it wouldn't stay down. It kept rising over and over. no matter how many times I pressed it. "Dad," Emma screamed. Her door was opening too. She was pulling on the handle, trying to keep it closed, but it was opening anyway, inch by inch. Small hands reached through the gap, grasping at her. "Close your eyes," I shouted. "Both of you, close your eyes and cover your ears." "What?" Emma looked at me, terrified. "Do it. Don't look at them. Don't listen to them." I didn't know if it would work. I had no idea what these things were or what they wanted. But every horror story, every fairy tale, every legend said the same thing. Don't listen, don't look, don't engage. Tyler squeezed his eyes shut and clamped his hands over his ears. Emma did the same, curling into a ball in her seat. I closed my own eyes. The laughter stopped. The tapping stopped. Everything went silent. I counted to 10, 20, 30. My heart was hammering so hard I thought it might burst. Then I heard a voice, soft, gentle. "Daddy?" It sounded like Emma, but Emma's voice came from the right, where she was curled up with her eyes closed. This voice came from outside the car, from the fog. "Daddy, why won't you look at me? Did I do something wrong?" "That's not Emma," I said, eyes still closed. "Emma, that's not you, right?" "I'm right here, Dad," Emma said, her voice muffled by her hands. "I'm not talking." "Daddy, please," the voice outside said. "I'm scared. I want to come inside where it's safe. Please let me in." It sounded exactly like her. Every inflection, every tremor. If I opened my eyes, would I see Emma standing outside the car? Would I be able to tell the difference? "Tyler, buddy, you still have your eyes closed?" "Yes," Tyler said. "Keep them closed, no matter what you hear. Promise me." "I promise." Another voice now. Male. Young. "Dad, I'm cold. Why did you leave me out here in the fog? Why don't you love me anymore?" Tyler. It sounded like Tyler, but Tyler was in the back seat with his eyes closed and his hands over his ears. "That's not me," Tyler said. "Dad, that's not me." More voices. Dozens of them. All sounding like my children, all begging to be let in, all asking why I'd abandoned them, why I didn't love them, why I was being so cruel. The car started rocking again, harder this time. Back and forth, back and forth. I gripped the steering wheel with both hands, keeping my eyes clenched shut. Something grabbed my shoulder. Small fingers, cold fingers. They squeezed, and I felt sharp nails digging through my jacket. "Open your eyes, Daddy," the Emma voice whispered right in my ear. "Just a peek. Just to make sure we're really your children. You need to check. You need to be sure. What if you're keeping your real children locked outside? What if the things in the backseat aren't your children at all?" I almost looked, almost opened my eyes. Because what if she was right? What if I was wrong? What if my real children were outside in the fog and I'd locked them out? But I'd seen those things' eyes, those hollow black eyes, those too wide smiles. "You're not my children," I said. "You're not real." The grip on my shoulder tightened, nails piercing skin. The voices outside rose to a shriek, angry now, frustrated. And then light. Red and blue light, flashing through my closed eyelids. A siren, a car door slamming. "Sir? Sir, are you all right? Can you hear me?" I opened my eyes. A police officer stood outside my driver's side window, shining a flashlight at me. The fog was gone, completely gone. Clear night sky overhead, stars visible, and no children. No pale faces, no tapping fingers. Just my car tilted in a ditch off Route 12, and a very concerned-looking state trooper. "Dad," Emma said from the back seat. "Is it over?" I turned to look at them. Emma and Tyler, both watching me with wide eyes. Normal eyes, brown like their mother's. "Yeah," I said, my voice shaking. "It's over." But when I looked at them in the rearview mirror, just for a second, I could have sworn their reflection smiled too wide. I woke up in a hospital bed with fluorescent lights burning into my eyes and a nurse checking my vitals. "Welcome back, Mr. Patterson," she said, smiling. "You gave everyone quite a scare. How are you feeling?" My head throbbed. My mouth tasted like copper. "What happened?" "You were in an accident. Your car went into a ditch off Route 12. A state trooper found you unconscious around 6 this morning. You've been out for about 8 hours." 6 in the morning. But the trooper had found us at night. I remembered the flashing lights, his voice. Or had I dreamed that? "My kids," I said, trying to sit up. "Emma and Tyler, are they okay?" "They're fine, not a scratch on them. They're with your wife in the waiting room. The doctor wants to keep you overnight for observation. Make sure you don't have a concussion, but your children were cleared to go home." Relief flooded through me. They were safe. Whatever those things in the fog had been, we'd escaped them. But something nagged at me. Something about the nurse's words. "Wait, you said the trooper found me unconscious?" "That's right. But I was awake. I talked to him. I remember." The nurse's smile became more fixed, more professional. Sometimes after head trauma, memories can get confused. The important thing is you're safe now. Your family is safe. She left, and a doctor came in shortly after. Asked me questions, made me follow his finger with my eyes, checked my reflexes, everything normal. Just a mild concussion. I could go home tomorrow. My wife Sarah came in an hour later, Emma and Tyler trailing behind her. Sarah hugged me carefully, like I might break. "God, David, you scared me to death." When the police called, her voice cracked. "I'm okay. We're all okay." Emma and Tyler stood at the foot of the bed, watching me. They looked exactly like my children. Emma's dark hair in a ponytail, Tyler's dinosaur shirt, the one he'd been wearing yesterday. Same faces, same expressions. But something was different. I couldn't put my finger on it. Something in the way they stood, the way they looked at me. Too still, too watchful. "You guys okay?" I asked them. "You weren't hurt?" "We're fine, Dad," Emma said. Her voice was perfect. Exactly right. "Not even scared?" I tried to smile. "That was pretty intense last night." Emma and Tyler looked at each other. Just a glance, but it lasted a fraction too long. "We don't really remember," Tyler said. "The doctor said that's normal, after accidents." But Tyler hadn't talked to any doctor. The nurse said they'd been cleared immediately, hadn't needed observation. "Right," I said slowly. "That's good. Good that you don't remember." They came home with me the next day. Life returned to normal, or what should have been normal. I went back to work after a few days. The kids went back to school. The car was totaled, so we bought a new one. Sarah stopped hovering quite so much. But I noticed things. Small things at first. Tyler had always been a picky eater. Wouldn't touch vegetables, would only eat chicken nuggets shaped like dinosaurs. Threw a fit if his food touched other food on his plate. Now he ate everything. Methodically, silently. Vegetables, meat, whatever we put in front of him. He chewed the same number of times for each bite. I counted once. 15 chews, every single bite. 15 chews, swallow, next bite. "Tyler, you don't have to eat the broccoli if you don't want it," Sarah said one night. "I like broccoli," Tyler replied. But he said it like he was reading from a script. No emotion, just words. Emma had always been afraid of the dark, had a nightlight, kept her door open a crack, needed me to check her closet before bed. Now she slept in complete darkness. door closed, curtains drawn. And when I opened her door one night to check on her, she was just lying there. On her back, arms at her sides, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. "Emma, you okay, sweetie?" She didn't blink, didn't move. "I'm sleeping, Daddy." But her eyes were open, and she was smiling. That smile. I started seeing it more and more. When they thought I wasn't looking, when they were watching TV or doing homework or just sitting quietly, their mouths would stretch just a little wider than they should, just a fraction past normal. And their eyes, in certain light at certain angles, they looked darker than they should, like the color was draining away, leaving behind something hollow. "Sarah, have you noticed anything weird about the kids?" I asked one night after they'd gone to bed. "Weird how?" "I don't know. Different, like they're not quite themselves." She looked at me with concern. "David, you hit your head pretty hard. The doctor said you might have some lingering effects. Maybe you should make a follow-up appointment." I'm not imagining things. Tyler eats everything now. Emma sleeps in complete darkness. These are major personality changes. Kids change. They're growing up. Maybe the accident shook something loose, made Tyler realize vegetables aren't poison, made Emma realize the dark isn't scary. She squeezed my hand. "They're fine. We're all fine." But we weren't fine. I started staying up late, watching them, listening, and I heard things. Whispers from their rooms, conversations and voices that sounded almost like theirs, but not quite. And sometimes, late at night, I'd hear tapping. Soft, rhythmic tapping on their windows. When I'd check, they'd be asleep, or pretending to be asleep. And the tapping would stop. Last week, I woke up at 3 a.m. to find both of them standing in my bedroom doorway. Just standing there, watching me sleep. "What's wrong?" I whispered, trying not to wake Sarah. "Bad dream?" "No," they said in unison. Perfect unison, same tone, same inflection. "Then what are you doing?" "Watching," Emma said. "Making sure," Tyler added. "Making sure of what?" They smiled, both of them, and their smiles stretched so wide I could see every tooth, more teeth than children should have. "Making sure you're really our daddy," they said together. "Making sure you're not one of them." Then they turned and walked back to their rooms, moving in perfect synchronization. Same stride, same rhythm. I checked on them 5 minutes later. They were both in bed, both sleeping normally. But on Emma's pillow, I found something. A small pile of dirt. And in the dirt, tiny footprints. Children's footprints, leading from the window to her bed. I'm writing this now because I need someone to know. Need someone to understand. The things that came back from the fog aren't my children. They look like them, sound like them, but they're not them. And the worst part? I think my real children are still out there. Still in the fog. Still playing with those pale-faced things that wanted so badly to come inside. I left the wrong ones in the car. I brought the wrong children home. And now every night, they sit at my dinner table. Sleep in my house. Call me Daddy. And they're waiting, watching, making sure I don't realize the truth. But I do realize it. I know what they are. The question is, what do they want? And how long before they decide they don't need to pretend anymore? Sarah just called me for dinner. I can hear them downstairs laughing. It sounds almost real, almost human. But when I close my eyes, I can still hear the real laughter. The wind chime laughter from the fog. And I know it's only a matter of time before they invite their friends inside. But I'd been driving for 6 hours straight when I first noticed something was wrong. The drive from Boulder to visit my parents in Ohio was supposed to take about 14 hours, and I'd done it enough times that I could practically do it with my eyes closed. Interstate 70 East, straight shot, boring as hell but reliable. I'd left at midnight to avoid traffic, loaded up on energy drinks and a playlist that could wake the dead. The highway was empty. Just me and the occasional semi, their running lights like distant stars in the darkness. I was making good time, already past the Colorado-Kansas border, settling into that driving trance where the miles blur together and your mind wanders. That's when I saw the mile marker. 113? Green sign, white numbers, reflecting in my headlights for just a second before I passed it. I thought nothing of it. Checked my phone. 3:27 a.m. Still had about 8 hours to go. I took a sip of my energy drink and kept driving. 15 minutes later, I saw it again. Mile marker 113. I frowned. That didn't make sense. I'd been going 75 miles per hour. I should be at least 18 miles further down the road. Should be at mile marker 131 or so. Must have misread it the first time. Easy to do at 3 in the morning when you've been staring at highway for hours. But then it happened again. Another 15 minutes. Another mile marker 113. This time I really paid attention. Made sure I was reading it right. The sign was clear as day. 113, no mistaking it. I checked my odometer. I'd traveled 43 miles since crossing into Kansas. The math wasn't adding up. Even if I'd seen mile marker 113 at the state line, which I hadn't, I should be way past it by now. Maybe Kansas numbered their mile markers weird. Maybe they reset at county lines or something. I wasn't from here. Didn't know how they did things. I kept driving, turned up the music, tried to focus on the lyrics instead of the growing unease in my gut. 20 minutes this time. I was deliberately watching the odometer, watching the numbers tick up. 1 mile, 2, 3, 15 miles traveled. Mile marker 113 appeared in my headlights. Okay, what the hell? I said out loud. I slowed down, really looking at the sign as I passed. Solid metal pole, reflective green sign, white numbers, 113, real, concrete, not a hallucination. I grabbed my phone, checked Google Maps. According to the GPS, I was exactly where I should be. The blue dot showed me moving steadily east on Interstate 70, already 100 miles into Kansas. But the mile markers said otherwise. I sped up, pushed the car to 80, then 85. My old Honda shook a little at that speed, but I needed to put distance between me and that sign. Needed to see a different number, any different number. The highway stretched out before me, empty and dark. No other cars now, not even semis. Just me and the broken white lines rushing under my tires and the endless black Kansas night. 35 miles on the odometer. Mile marker 113. No, I breathed. No, that's not possible. I pulled over onto the shoulder, put the car in park, sat there with my hazards blinking, trying to make sense of this. I wasn't drunk, wasn't high. I'd had too much caffeine, if anything. I was completely alert, completely aware. And I was seeing the same mile marker over and over again. I pulled up Google, typed in Interstate 70 Kansas mile marker 113. A few results about highway conditions, nothing unusual. Typed in repeating mile marker. Some conspiracy theories about dimensional portals and time loops, which didn't help. I called my roommate Jake. It rang 6 times before he picked up, voice thick with sleep. Dude, it's almost 4 in the morning. You better be dying. Jake, something weird is happening. I'm on 70 heading east and I keep passing the same mile marker. What? Mile marker 113. I've passed it like 5 times in the last hour. Silence. Then, "Are you high?" I'm completely sober. I'm not joking. I've traveled over 70 miles according to my odometer, but the mile markers keep saying 113. That's not possible, man. I know it's not possible. That's why I'm calling you. Maybe you're going in circles? Like you got turned around and you're driving west instead of east? I looked at my GPS. Still showed me heading east. Still showed the blue dot moving in the right direction. No, I'm definitely going east. My GPS shows it. Then I don't know what to tell you. Maybe the mile markers are wrong. Maybe some drunk highway worker put up a bunch of signs with the same number. It was a reasonable explanation. The only reasonable explanation. But it didn't feel right. "Yeah, maybe," I said. "Sorry for waking you up." "It's cool. Drive safe. And maybe get some coffee. You sound stressed." I hung up and pulled back onto the highway. Jake was probably right. Some mistake with the signs. I'd see a different number soon. Had to. I drove for another hour, watched the odometer climb, watched the sky start to lighten at the edges, that pre-dawn gray that promises sunrise. And every 10 to 15 miles, regular as clockwork, mile marker 113 appeared. The sun came up. Full daylight now. And I could see clearly that the highway was completely straight. No curves, no turns. No way I could be driving in circles. But I was trapped. Trapped in some impossible loop that shouldn't exist. That's when I saw the first body. It was on the shoulder, about 50 yards ahead. A deer, looked like. Hit by a car. Not unusual. I saw roadkill all the time. But when I passed it, I noticed something. The blood was fresh, still wet, still bright red. Mile marker 113 appeared. Then the deer appeared again. Same spot, same position, same fresh blood. I've been seeing the same stretch of highway over and over. The exact same stretch. And then I saw something that made my blood turn to ice. Up, ahead, parked on the shoulder with its hazards blinking, was a car. A silver Honda Civic. My car. I was looking at myself pulled over on the shoulder. The me from an hour ago when I'd first stopped to figure out what was happening. I slowed down as I approached. Stared at my own car sitting empty on the roadside. But I was in my car, right now, driving it. I passed the parked Honda, looked in my rearview mirror. It was gone. The shoulder was empty, and ahead of me mile marker 113 waited. I kept driving because stopping seemed like a worse option. My mind raced through possibilities. Hallucinations from lack of sleep. Carbon monoxide leak in the car, some kind of psychological break. But I felt fine. Alert. The coffee was working, maybe too well. My hands were steady on the wheel. The dead deer appeared again, right where it should be. Same position, legs twisted at that awful angle. Same pool of blood spreading on the shoulder. I passed mile marker 113. When the deer appeared the next time, it was different. The body was gone, but the blood remained, smeared across the asphalt in long streaks. Like something had dragged the carcass away. The streaks led off the shoulder into the ditch, disappearing into the tall grass. My stomach clenched. I tried to reason it out. Maybe I'd missed seeing someone stop to move it. Road crews, maybe. But there were no other vehicles. No one for miles. I passed mile marker 113. The blood streaks were still there on the next loop. But now, there was something else. A person standing right next to the mile marker sign. They were waving at me. Big, exaggerated movements, arms going back and forth over their head like they were flagging down a rescue plane. I should have stopped. If someone needs help on the highway, you stop. That's what decent people do. But something about the way they waved looked wrong. Too mechanical, too rhythmic, like a mannequin on a motor going through the same motion over and over without variation. I pressed the gas pedal, accelerating past them. Got a glimpse in my peripheral vision. Couldn't tell if they were male or female. They wore dark clothes, a hoodie maybe. Couldn't see their face. In my rearview mirror, they kept waving. Arms up, arms down, arms up, arms down. Never stopping, never turning to watch me drive away. My heart was hammering now. This wasn't right. None of this was right. I passed mile marker 113. The person was in my passenger seat. I screamed and swerved, nearly losing control. The car fishtailed before I corrected, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles went white. The person sat perfectly still, facing forward, still making that waving motion. Arms up, arms down, arms up, arms down. Mechanical, precise. They weren't looking at me, weren't looking at anything. Just waving at the windshield like they were trying to flag down someone only they could see. "Get out," I said. My voice came out strangled. "Get out of my car." They didn't respond, didn't acknowledge I'd spoken, just kept waving. I could see them more clearly now. The hoodie was gray, stained with something dark. Their hands were pale, almost translucent. And there was something wrong with the proportions. The arms were too long, the fingers were too thin. I reached over to grab them, to push them out, and my hand passed through their shoulder like they were made of smoke. I jerked my hand back. The person kept waving. This wasn't real. Couldn't be real. I was hallucinating. Had to be. I closed my eyes for just a second, counted to 3, opened them. The person was still there, still waving. Mile marker 113 appeared ahead. "Please," I whispered. "Please make this stop." The person finally stopped waving. Slowly, mechanically, they turned their head to look at me. They had no face. Not like it had been removed or burned away. Just nothing. Smooth skin where features should be. No eyes, no nose, no mouth. Just a blank expanse of pale skin stretched over bone. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Could only stare in horror as that faceless head tilted, studying me with senses I couldn't understand. Then it reached for me with those 2 long fingers. I grabbed the door handle and threw myself out of the car at 70 miles per hour. I should have died, should have hit the asphalt and tumbled and broken every bone in my body. But I didn't hit anything. I just fell through darkness, tumbling through empty space, screaming. And then I was back in my car, behind the wheel, hands at 10 and 2, driving 70 miles per hour. The passenger seat was empty. I looked at the odometer. It had reset, back to 0 miles traveled. Mile marker 113 appeared ahead. I started laughing. Couldn't help it. Hysterical, broken laughter that hurt my chest. I tried to escape and ended up right back where I started. Or maybe I'd never left. Maybe I'd imagined throwing myself from the car. Maybe I was imagining all of this. The dead deer appeared. Fresh blood. Same position. Mile marker 113. The drag marks in the blood. Mile marker 113. The waving figure. Mile marker 113. This time, I didn't just pass them. I watched in my rearview mirror as they turned to face my retreating car. Then they started walking, not toward anything. Just walking down the center of the highway in the direction I'd come from. And with each step, their body changed, stretched, grew. By the time I lost sight of them in my mirror, they were at least 8 feet tall, limbs elongated like taffy, that faceless head swiveling back and forth. Mile marker 113, the figure was in my back seat now. I could see them in the rearview mirror. sitting directly behind me. Close enough that if they were real, I'd feel their breath on my neck. They weren't waving anymore. They were just sitting there, watching me with that absence of a face. "What do you want?" I asked. My voice cracked. They leaned forward. I felt the seat shift under their weight. Felt something that might have been fingers touch my shoulder. And then they spoke. Not with a mouth, because they didn't have a mouth. But I heard the words anyway, vibrating through my skull, bypassing my ears entirely. "You stopped at mile marker 113? They said. "You're not supposed to stop at mile marker 113. I didn't stop at it. I stopped near it. I pulled over. Same thing. This stretch of highway doesn't exist. Mile marker 113 was removed, deleted. But you stopped here anyway. Found the gap in the road, the place between places. I want to leave. Please, I want to leave." "You can leave," they said. "But you have to give us something first. Have to leave something behind. That's the rule. That's always the rule." "Leave what?" "Something important. Something you need." The dead deer appeared again, but this time it was different. This time it wasn't a deer. It was a person, young woman, college age, wearing clothes I recognized because I'd seen them in photos. My girlfriend Rachel, dead on the shoulder of the highway. Same twisted limbs, same pool of blood. "No," I breathed. "No, she's in Boulder. She's safe. She's mile marker 113. The blood streaks. Something had dragged Rachel's body into the ditch. "Stop it," I screamed. "She's not here. This isn't real." "She's what you might leave behind," the faceless figure said. "Or your parents, or your future, or your memory of who you were before you stopped at mile marker 113. Something important. You choose, or we choose for you. Mile marker 113. Rachel was standing next to the sign now, waving at me. Mechanical, wrong. And I knew if I passed the marker again, she'd be in my passenger seat. And after that, I'd never see her again. Not really. She'd be gone, erased, fed to whatever this place was. "I'll give you something else," I said desperately. "Anything else?" The figure in my back seat leaned close to my ear. "Then stop the car," they whispered. "Stop at mile marker 113, and we'll discuss terms." Ahead of me, the marker appeared. 113. My foot hovered over the brake. I pressed the brake. The car slowed, tires crunching on gravel as I pulled onto the shoulder, right next to mile marker 113. The sign stood there, innocent and ordinary in the morning light. Green metal, white numbers. Nothing special about it at all, except it had trapped me here for hours, or days, or forever. The figure in my back seat said nothing. When I looked in the rearview mirror, they were gone. The passenger seat was empty too. Rachel wasn't standing by the marker anymore. I was alone. I turned off the engine. The sudden silence was deafening. No traffic, no wind, no birds. Just perfect, absolute quiet. My hands shook as I opened the door and stepped out. The air felt wrong. Too thick, too still. Like I was breathing something that wasn't quite oxygen. Each breath took effort, like my lungs had to remember how to work. I walked toward the mile marker. My legs felt distant, like they belonged to someone else. The ground was solid under my feet, real. But everything else felt like a photograph I was walking through. That's when I saw the memorial. It was just off the shoulder, partially hidden in the tall grass. A small white cross, the kind people put up at accident sites. Plastic flowers zip-tied to it. Some were faded by sun, others looked fresh. I walked closer, my heart pounding. There was a name on the cross, my name, Ethan Morrison, and a date, tomorrow's date. I stared at it for a long time, trying to make sense of the numbers. Today was November 18th. The cross said November 19th. Tomorrow. I was going to die tomorrow. Or I had died tomorrow. Or I was dying right now, and this was the moment stretching out. The way they say your life flashes before your eyes. Maybe for me it wasn't a flash. Maybe it was this. This endless loop. This highway that wouldn't let me go. I knelt down in the grass, touched the cross with trembling fingers. It was real. Solid wood. The flowers were plastic but weathered, like they'd been here a long time. How long had I been standing at this mile marker? How many versions of me had stopped here? How many loops had I already driven? My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. A text from Rachel. "Hey babe, you almost to Kansas City? Drive safe. Love you." Kansas City. I'd passed Kansas City hours ago. Or had I? I checked the timestamp on the message. It was from 3 hours ago, right when I should have been passing through. I tried to reply. My fingers wouldn't work right, kept hitting the wrong keys. The message came out gibberish. I deleted it. Tried again. Same thing. I wasn't in control anymore. Hadn't been for a while. Another buzz. My mom this time. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow, honey. Your dad is making your favorite dinner." Tomorrow, the day on the cross. I looked back at the highway. Empty in both directions. Nothing moving, nothing alive except me. Except I wasn't sure I was alive either. Something rustled in the grass behind me. I spun around. The faceless figure stood there, closer than before. Not just one of them. 3, 5, a dozen. All watching me with their absence of features. All perfectly still. "You stopped," one of them said. All of them said. The words came from everywhere and nowhere. "What am I?" I asked. "Am I dead?" "Not yet. Not quite. You're in the moment between, the pause before impact. This stretch of highway is where you'll die tomorrow. Car accident, quick, painless. But you found the gap, stopped where you shouldn't have stopped, and now you're stuck. How do I leave? You don't. No one leaves mile marker 113, but you can move forward, can finish the loop, can become. Become what? They moved closer, surrounding me. Their 2 long arms reached out, and I felt cold fingers touching my face, my chest, my thoughts. "What the highway needs," they whispered. "What it's always needed. Someone to wave down the next driver, someone to mark the spot, someone to help others find the gap." "No," I said. But my voice was fading. "No, I won't. You already are." I looked down at my hands. They were pale, translucent. The skin looked smooth, too smooth. I reached up to touch my face and felt nothing. No nose, no mouth, no eyes. Just smooth skin stretched over bone. "No," I tried to scream, but I had no mouth to scream with. The world lurched. Suddenly I was standing next to the mile marker. My car was gone. The memorial was gone. There was only the highway and the sign and me. And I was waving, arms up, arms down, arms up, arms down. I couldn't stop. My body moved on its own, mechanical and precise, flagging down cars that would pass in moments or hours or years. Time didn't work right here. I could feel it looping, folding, stretching thin. A car appeared in the distance. Silver Honda. Driving fast, I waved harder, trying to warn them, trying to tell them not to stop. But my arms just kept moving through the same motion, and I had no voice to shout with. The car slowed, stopped. A young man got out, college age, looked exhausted, confused. He saw the memorial, his name, tomorrow's date. And I watched as understanding dawned on his face. watched as the other figures emerged from the grass, watched as he became what I had become. Another wave, another marker, another soul trapped in the moment before death. The highway needed us, fed on us, on the people who stopped where they shouldn't stop, who found the gaps in reality and stepped through. I'm still here, still waving. I'll always be here. And sometimes, late at night, I see my silver Honda drive past, see myself behind the wheel, alive and solid and real, heading east on Interstate 70. That version of me who didn't stop, who kept driving, who made it to Ohio and hugged his parents and lived his life. But he's not real. I know that now. He's the dream. I'm what's real. I'm the one standing at mile marker 113, waving, waiting. And if you're driving through Kansas on Interstate 70 and you see someone standing by a mile marker in the early morning light, waving at you with movements that look just a little too mechanical, just a little too rhythmic, don't stop. Don't even slow down. Because we're always looking for company. And the highway is always hungry. And once you stop at mile marker 113, you'll never leave. You'll just become another waving figure. Another warning that no one heeds. Another soul trapped in the moment before your death, reaching out to the living, trying to tell them to run. But they never listen. They never do. Arms up, arms down, arms up, arms down, forever. The price was too good to be true, which should have been my first warning. I'd been car shopping for 3 weeks, scrolling through listings during my lunch breaks, driving clunkers that smelled like cigarettes and had check engine lights that the sellers swore were just a sensor thing. My budget was tight, teacher's salary tight, and I needed something reliable for my 40-minute commute to the high school where I taught English. Then I found the listing. 2012 Lexus sedan, leather interior, low mileage, $4,800. I called immediately, certain it was a scam or a typo. But the dealer, a small independent lot on the edge of town called Morrison's Auto Sales, confirmed the price. Said I should come look at it today if I was interested. It wouldn't last long. He was right about that. The car was beautiful. Champagne-colored, spotless interior, not a scratch on it. I ran my hand over the leather seats. They were soft, supple, maintained better than any 10-year-old car had a right to be. Why so cheap? I asked the dealer. His name was Tom, according to his polo shirt. Mid-50s, thinning hair, the kind of guy who probably coached Little League and volunteered at his church. Estate sale, he said quickly, not meeting my eyes. Previous owner passed away. Family just wants it gone. I'm barely making anything on it, honestly, just trying to help them out. What did they die of? The question came out before I could stop it. Morbid, inappropriate. But Tom's nervousness was making me nervous. Does it matter? He laughed, but it sounded forced. Come on, let's take it for a test drive. The car drove like a dream. Smooth, quiet. The engine purred. Everything worked, AC, heat, radio, all of it. I kept waiting for something to be wrong, for the catch. But there wasn't one. 20 minutes later, I was signing paperwork in Tom's cramped office. So, just one thing, Tom said as he handed me the keys. His hand was shaking slightly. Keep the windows cracked, just a little bit, even when it's parked. Why? Ventilation, leather seats, you know. They need to breathe, otherwise they get musty. I'd never heard that before, but I wasn't a car expert. Okay, sure. I mean it. He grabbed my wrist and his palm was sweaty. Always keep them cracked, at least an inch. Promise me. Okay, I promise. I pulled my hand away, creeped out. He relaxed a little. managed a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Great. Congratulations on your new car. Drive safe." I drove off the lot feeling like I'd just won the lottery. A Lexus for under $5,000. This was going to change everything. No more anxiety about my old car dying on the highway. No more scraping together money for repairs. The first week was perfect. The car was everything I'd hoped for. Comfortable, reliable, got great gas mileage. I kept the windows cracked like Tom had said. Though I forgot a few times, nothing bad happened. It was on the 8th night that I first noticed something odd. I'd stayed late at school, grading essays, and didn't leave until almost 8 p.m. The parking lot was empty, except for my car, under a flickering streetlight. When I got in, the interior felt warm. Not hot, just warm. Like someone had been sitting in it recently. But I'd been the last person to touch it, hours ago. And it was October, 40 degrees outside. The car should have been cold. I checked the vents. Heat was off. I touched the seats. They were warm too, almost body temperature. Weird, but not alarming. Maybe the leather absorbed heat during the day and held on to it. That was the thing, right? I drove home, and by the time I got there, the warmth had faded. Everything seemed normal. But the next night, it happened again. Same warmth, same body temperature leather. And this time, when I put my hand on the driver's seat, I swear I felt it move. Just slightly. Like it was expanding and contracting, like it was breathing. I jerked my hand away, heart racing, looked at the seat. It was perfectly still, perfectly normal. "You're tired," I told myself. Grading too many essays, not enough sleep. But I kept my hand off the seat for the rest of the drive. It was on the 13th night that I forgot to crack the windows. I'd been distracted, running late for a dinner with friends. Just jumped in the car and drove. Didn't think about it until I got home 4 hours later and saw all the windows sealed tight. The car was parked in my driveway, and even from outside, I could see condensation on the inside of the windows, like someone had been breathing in there for hours. My stomach clenched. I approached slowly, key fob in hand. The condensation was thick, opaque. I couldn't see through it. And as I got closer, I noticed something that made me stop dead in my tracks. There were patterns in the condensation, not random, deliberate. Handprints, small handprints, on the inside of every window, like someone had been trapped inside, pressing their palms against the glass, trying to get out. I stood there for a long moment, every instinct screaming at me to get back inside my house, lock the doors, call someone. But this was my car, my investment, and there had to be a logical explanation. I clicked the unlock button. The doors didn't unlock. I tried again. Nothing. I used the physical key, forced it into the door lock, that has turned it. The lock popped up. I opened the door, and warm air rushed out, humid, thick. It smelled like copper and something else, something organic and wrong. The handprints faded as the air escaped, disappearing like they'd never been there. The leather seats were wet, not damp. Wet, like they were sweating. And when I touched the driver's seat, it was warm and soft, and I swear to God it moved under my palm. Expanding, contracting, breathing. I slammed the door shut and backed away. Inside the car, in the darkness, something shifted in the back seat. I didn't drive the car for 3 days after that night. I took the bus to work, made excuses about needing the exercise. But the car sat in my driveway, and every morning when I left, I could see the condensation on the windows. Fresh, like something inside was still breathing. On the 4th day, I had no choice. There was a parent-teacher conference across town, no bus route, and I was already running late. I stood at my front door, keys in hand, staring at the Lexus. It looked normal in the daylight, just a car. I got in quickly, started the engine, kept all the windows down. The seat felt normal under me. Leather, nothing more. I pulled out of my driveway and headed toward the school on the east side of town. I knew the route, took it all the time. Left on Maple, straight for 2 miles, right on Henderson. But when I got to Maple, my hands turned the wheel right instead of left. I tried to correct, pull the wheel back, but my hands wouldn't obey. They stayed locked on the wheel, knuckles white, turning where the car wanted to go. "No," I said out loud. "No, I need to go left." The car went right. My foot pressed the gas pedal. I wasn't doing it, wasn't pressing down. But the car accelerated anyway, smooth and steady, like it knew exactly where it wanted to go. I tried to hit the brakes. My leg wouldn't move, wouldn't respond to what my brain was screaming at it to do. The car drove itself through streets I barely recognized, past the industrial district, past abandoned warehouses, took an exit onto a service road I'd never seen before. "Stop," I begged. "Please stop." We pulled into an empty parking lot behind a shuttered factory. The car put itself in park. The engine stayed running, and then my hands let go of the wheel. My body was mine again. I grabbed the door handle, yanked it. The door opened easily. I stumbled out, gasping, and ran 20 feet before I stopped and looked back. The car just sat there, idling, waiting. I pulled out my phone, called a tow truck. Then I called the school, made up an excuse about being sick. I wasn't getting back in that car? Not now. Not ever. The tow truck driver raised an eyebrow when he saw the Lexus. "This is what you need towed? Looks brand new." "It's not working right," I said. "Just take it to Palmer's Auto on 5th Street." He loaded it up without further questions. I took an Uber home and tried not to think about where the car had wanted to take me. What would have happened if I'd stayed in that parking lot? Palmer's called me the next afternoon. "Miss Chen, we looked at your vehicle." The mechanic's voice was tight, professional but strained. "What's wrong with it?" "We can't work on it." "What? Why not?" "Just, we can't. Come pick it up." "You didn't even tell me what's wrong. Come pick it up today, please. We want it off our lot." He hung up. I took another Uber to the shop. When I walked into the garage, 3 mechanics were standing together, talking in low voices. They all stopped when they saw me. "Where's my car?" I asked. The youngest one couldn't have been more than 25, pointed to the far corner. "Over there. Keys are in it. Please take it and go." "What did you find?" "Nothing. We didn't find anything. We didn't look." "You said you looked at it." The older mechanic, gray-haired with oil stains permanently embedded in his hands, stepped forward. "We opened the hood. That was enough." "Enough for what?" "Miss, I've been working on cars for 37 years. I know engines. I know parts. What's under your hood?" He shook his head. "That's not an engine. I don't know what it is, but it's not an engine." "That's insane. It drives fine." "The problem isn't the car," he said quietly. "It's what the car ate." The words hung in the air between us. What the car ate. I don't understand. You don't want to understand. Trust me. Get rid of that car. Sell it. Push it off a cliff. I don't care. But don't drive it anymore. They wouldn't say anything else. I got in the Lexus, hands shaking, and drove home. The car behaved itself this time. Went exactly where I steered it. When I got home, I decided to clean it out. If I was going to sell it, I needed to remove my stuff. and maybe I'd find something that would explain what the mechanic had meant. I checked the glove compartment. Registration, manual, nothing unusual. Checked the center console. Receipts, loose change, a phone charger. Then I reached under the driver's seat, feeling for anything that might have fallen there. My fingers touched something glossy. Photographs. I pulled them out. 5 of them. Instant photos. The kind that develop right away. The first photo showed a middle-aged man standing next to the Lexus. He wasn't smiling. His face was pale, drawn. His eyes looked hollow. Behind him, I could see Morrison's auto sales. The second photo showed a young couple. Same car, same dealership, same hollow eyes, neither smiling. The third showed an elderly woman. Fourth showed a teenager. Fifth showed a family of 4. All of them standing next to the Lexus. All of them at Morrison's. All of them with those same dead eyes. Previous owners, I realized. All the previous owners. I flipped the photos over. On the back of each one, written in neat handwriting, were dates. The dates of their deaths. All of them died within 3 months of buying the car. The most recent photo was dated 4 months ago. The family of 4. I recognized them now. I'd seen the news story. Car accident on the highway. All 4 dead. The reporter had called it a tragedy. Said something about the brakes failing. My hands were shaking so hard I dropped the photos. There was one more under the seat. I pulled it out, already knowing what I'd see. It was me, standing next to the Lexus in Morrison's parking lot on the day I bought it. I was smiling in this one, excited about my great deal. The only photo where someone was smiling. But written on the back, in that same neat handwriting, was a date. 3 weeks from now. The date of my death. I looked up at my rearview mirror and saw something in the back seat that hadn't been there a moment before. A shape. Dark. Twisted. Growing larger. The doors locked. All of them. The click was loud in the silence. The engine started on its own. And through the rearview mirror, I watched as something that had never been human leaned forward and smiled at me with too many teeth. Time to drive, it whispered. My hands moved to the steering wheel without my permission. And the car pulled out of my driveway, heading somewhere I couldn't name, taking a route I'd never chosen. Taking me exactly where it wanted me to go. The car drove me to the same parking lot behind the abandoned factory. My hands worked the wheel, my foot pressed the pedals. But I wasn't the one doing it. I was just watching from inside my own body, a passenger in my own skin. We sat there for 2 hours. Engine running, heat blasting even though I was sweating. The thing in the back seat never moved, but I could feel it watching me in the mirror. Could smell it. Copper and decay and something sweet that made my stomach turn. Then, finally, my hands put the car in drive and took me home. I stumbled inside and locked every door. Called the police. Told them someone had stolen my car, that I didn't want it back, that they could have it. The officer on the phone was patient but confused. "Ma'am, if someone stole your car, we need to file a report and try to recover it. That's how this works." "No, you don't understand. I don't want it recovered. I want it gone, destroyed." "We can't destroy your property, ma'am. If you want to get rid of a car, you need to sell it or junk it." I hung up, looked out my front window. The Lexus sat in my driveway. Keys on my kitchen counter where I'd thrown them. I grabbed the keys and drove it myself this time. Forced my hands to obey me. Took it 10 miles out of town to a junkyard I'd seen advertised. The owner offered me $800 for parts. "Deal," I said. "Take it. Now. Today." He looked at me strangely, but didn't argue with someone practically giving away a Lexus. I took an Uber home and slept for the first time in days. Deep, dreamless sleep. I woke up at 3 a.m. to the sound of an engine idling. The Lexus was in my driveway. I called the junkyard the next morning. The owner swore he'd never seen me, never seen the car. Checked his records. No transaction, no Lexus. But it was here, in my driveway, waiting. I tried 6 more times over the next week. Abandoned it in different cities. Left it in mall parking lots. Drove it to a lake and left the keys in the ignition with the doors unlocked, begging someone to steal it. Every morning, it was back in my driveway. On the 8th day, I stopped fighting. I got in the car and let it take me wherever it wanted. I didn't know what else to do. The date on the back of my photo was 12 days away now. Maybe if I cooperated, if I gave it what it wanted, it would let me live. The car drove at night mostly. Took me down dark highways and rural roads. Sometimes it would pull over at a gas station and I'd find myself getting out. Pumping gas, paying with my credit card, all while some part of me screamed that I should run, should get help. But I never did. My body wouldn't let me. 5 days before my death date, the car started picking up hitchhikers. We were on Route 47, the same mountain road where my sister lived, when the car slowed near a figure on the shoulder. Young man, college age, thumb out. My window rolled down on its own. Need a ride? My voice, my words, but I hadn't chosen to say them. Yeah, thanks. He climbed into the back seat, right where the thing had been sitting, where it maybe still was sitting. I'm heading to Millbrook. Got stuck when my car broke down. I can take you, my mouth said. We drove in silence for a while. I tried to warn him, tried to scream, but my lips wouldn't move. My voice wouldn't work. In the rearview mirror, I watched his face go pale, watched his eyes widen. Hey, you can let me out anywhere here, he said, his voice tight with sudden fear. We're almost there, my voice replied. We weren't almost to Millbrook. We were heading the wrong direction. The young man reached for the door handle. It wouldn't open. He pulled harder. Nothing. Let me out. Let me out right now. My eyes met his in the rearview mirror, and I saw the moment he really looked at me. Really saw me. Oh, God. He whispered. What are you? I didn't know anymore. When had my skin gotten so pale? When had my eyes gotten so dark? I couldn't remember what I'd looked like before. Couldn't picture my own face from a month ago. The car drove us to a cliff overlooking the valley. Parked at the edge. My door opened. I got out. Walked around to the back. Opened the trunk. The young man was screaming now, pulling at the doors, punching the windows. The back seat folded down on its own. A passage opened between the cabin and the trunk. No, he sobbed. Please, no. Something in the trunk reached through the gap. Pale arms, too many of them. They grabbed him and pulled, and his screams were cut short. The seat folded back up. My trunk closed gently. I got back in the driver's seat. The car took me home. In my bathroom mirror that night, I barely recognized myself. My face was smooth, waxy. My eyes were too dark. My smile, when I tried it, stretched too wide. I was becoming part of it. Part of the car, indeed a part of whatever the car was. The photo under my seat changed. I checked it obsessively. My death date was crossed out, replaced with something else, a question mark. And beneath it, in that neat handwriting, useful. I wasn't going to die. I was going to do something worse. I was going to help it feed. 3 weeks later, I sold the car to a woman at Morrison's Auto Sales. Tom was retired now, new owner. Didn't know about the car's history. Such a great deal, the woman said, signing the paperwork. I can't believe this price. Just remember, I told her, my voice flat, emotionless. Keep the windows cracked. The leather needs to breathe. She laughed. Sure, will do. I watched her drive away, watched the car take her wherever it wanted to take her. And I waited. Because in 3 months, I'd be back at Morrison's with another car, another impossibly good deal. The car always came back to me, and I always sold it again, and again, and again. Each time I did it, I remembered less. Less about who I'd been, what I'd wanted, what my face had looked like when I was still human. Now I just sell cars. I'm very good at it. The deals are always excellent. And if you're looking for a car, I have a beautiful Lexus. Champagne-colored, leather interior, low mileage. The price is too good to be true. But I promise, it's real. The car is very real, and it's very, very hungry. Just remember to keep the windows cracked. The leather needs to breathe. And late at night, when you're driving alone, when you feel the seats warming beneath you, when you sense something shifting in the back seat, don't look in the rearview mirror, because by then, it's already too late. The car has chosen you, and soon you'll be standing in a dealership just like me, pale and hollow and smiling too wide, selling that same beautiful Lexus to the next person who thinks they've found the deal of a lifetime. The car always needs more, and there's always room for one more. Always.